Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to Old Man Rambles. And today, as usual, I'm going to ramble about myself. Um, I recently went to a game day at a coworker's house. This guy that works in the engineering department where I work, and about a year ago, he built himself a new house and built, a game room in his basement. Built himself like a gaming table, and he regularly has people over. You know, people from work, people he knows outside of work. On the weekends, just invites people over, cooks some stuff, and he frequently invites me as well. I frequently turn him down for one reason or another. Um, Sometimes because I have something to do. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood. Sometimes I feel guilty leaving the wife here alone on the weekends for a full day. He does live. It's an hour drive to his house, um, or at least an hour by my phone. My phone lies to me, not about more than just the weather. Apparently, when I was driving to his house, like my phone was there and it said, you know, it was like 8 minutes left till my estimated time to arrival, and there was 2 miles left. I'm like, it's not going to take me 8 minutes to drive 2 miles. So my phone lies to me about the distance to his house as well. So I wound up getting there early. Anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. Um, it was a good day. It's one of those things that, I need for my mental health. I've said it repeatedly, and I'll continue to say it. Spending this much time alone isn't good for my mental health. It it leaves me alone with my thoughts too much, and I went spiraling out of control, and um, just thinking bad thoughts about myself. And it's far better for me to not do this. So I do need these days out. Uh, I'm usually, after two or three of these, I'm usually in a much healthier spot. So probably should go to these more often than I do. Not sure if that'll change, but like I said, a lot of it is I felt guilty leaving my wife here alone on the weekends, because it's an hour drive out, which means, I left at 9 o'clock in the morning and got home around 7:30. So it's a long day, 2 hours in the car, and we only have the one car, so there's guilt involved. uh, but days like that, I had the Saturday game day and then I had Sunday off, but it kind of wasn't enough. It's kind of like my brain doesn't really catalog it as time off. My brain reacts to it as the same as going to work. I'm subconsciously reacting to it as though I only had one day off. In spite of the fact that I had 2 days off for the weekend, I spent one day having a great time. I had a blast. We played a bunch of board games, a bunch of card games. A different coworker had brought a party game that she had just picked up, and we laughed our asses off. We were all laughing so hard I thought someone was going to wet themselves. It was, or have a heart attack. It was, we just, we laughed so hard we couldn't play anymore. We just sat around the table and just laughed hysterically for a good 5 or 10 minutes. And it was, like I said, it was a great day. But I think I've gotten too used to being alone. You know, um, I think it's one of the ways in which COVID has broken me. But even before COVID, I tended to work alone. The job that I have, I really don't interact with anybody. My job is emails and spreadsheets. I deal with data and with coding and with, and invoices and, dangerous goods manuals and regulations and stuff like that. I don't, you know, there would be days when I was in the office where I would just sit and not talk to anyone because I didn't need to. Aside from getting up from my chair and saying, "Hey, I'm going to get something to drink at the cafeteria. Anybody want to walk with me?" That was the complete and total extent of my talking with people around me the entire day. Um, I would get home from work and my wife would ask me questions and like, "What did you do at work today?" "I worked." What about so and so?" It's like, "I don't know." "Didn't you talk to him?" "No." "Why? Why would I?" Um, I'm an introvert. So like I said, even before COVID, I didn't interact with people all that much. Didn't need to. Um, But then when COVID came along and I started working from home, I got up in the morning, even when my wife was working at home, most of our conversations when we work together at home is, what are we having for dinner during the course of the day? We both are working. It's not like we chat all that much. I mean, we, you know, talk before we clock in, talk a little bit at lunchtime, and then, we talk over dinner. But, so I wake up in the morning, get my wife her morning tea or water or whatever to drink, and I work my day away. Same stuff, not necessarily interacting with my coworkers, even through email and stuff. I'm, looking at spreadsheets and doing coding stuff. Shut my laptop off, have dinner with the wife, chat over dinner, clean up, and then I come in here and I sit in front of the computer until I go to bed. And on the weekends, if I don't have any chores around the house to do, I sit here in front of the computer until I go to bed. I get up to go pee and eat, and so I mean, definitely since COVID, I probably spend, like I said, most of the wife conversation the wife and I have is, well, what are we having for dinner? So for probably a good 5 years, um, that was 90% of my social interaction was these discussions with my wife, half of which were you know about nothing. We have different interests, my wife and I. She's not into gaming, or at least not this type of gaming. She plays match 3 games on her phone, on her cell phone. She watches reality television, which I can't stand. So we don't interact too much. Most of our interactions are about food and the kids. And with the kids moved out, you know, that cuts off one element of interaction. Um, Kind of sad, I guess, that we don't interact more, but it is what it is. Um, we're not getting divorced. We're not, so don't worry about us. We're okay. But back to my mental state is, yeah, I spend a lot of time alone. And that doesn't really bother me. It's not good for my mental health, but it doesn't bother me. But I've I've grown accustomed to it, and I guess I've grown to depend on it, because when I do spend time with other people, it's not relaxing. No matter how much fun I'm having, it's, when I spend time with other people, I feel like I need a day off. Not to like maybe to recuperate. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to quantify it. Because I do enjoy, I can enjoy being with other people. I had a blast that Saturday, when my father-in-law was dying and there were people constantly in the house. I I liked having them here. I really, really did. I truly appreciated them being here. I loved having the people in the house. But at the same time, you know, once they were, once they were gone, after those 2 weeks of everyone being in the house and us being over there and everything like that, I don't know. It did seem weird having them gone. I'd gotten kind of used to them being here, but it was also a relief, I guess, to have them gone. More to, I don't know. It's just odd that my brain works this way, that it's become used to being this way, that I've become so used to being alone that being around people almost feels like work, even when it doesn't. Even when it doesn't, my brain treats it like it is. My brain treats being around people as not relaxing, no matter how much fun I'm having or how much I'm enjoying their company. And I guess it's just odd. Good hunting.